What is Parks on the Air? POTA. P-O-T-A. It's an acronym standing for Parks on the Air. Pretty much every time in amateur radio when we say something and it ends with OTA, it means on the air. There's parks on the air, there's summits on the air, SOTA, islands on the air, IOTA. There's a thing it started, I think, on it's either Instagram or Twitter, called Walmart parking lots on the air. Go figure. I don't know. During field day, you can have a GOTA station, Get on the Air, and that's a station that's set up for different people to come and get on the air for their first time on HF. So anytime you end something with OTA, generally speaking, in amateur radio, it means something on the air. So today is POTA. What is Parks on the Air? And we're going to discuss it right now.
Shut up and sit down.
Hey guys, this is Jason. I'm KC5HWB. On this channel we do reviews, news, and how-tos of many things that are new in amateur radio. And if you're new to Parks on the Air, you want to know what it is, maybe you've heard about it, don't quite understand it, that's what we're going to be talking about today. So Parks on the Air started after 2016. In 2016, the ARRL did a year-long event that they called National Parks on the Air, NPOTA. And basically what they did was they did it from January to December of 2016, and it was a time to go out to specifically designated national parks that were recognized by the federal government national parks list. There was a list. You can Google for it. NPOTA ARRL 2016 event. So basically, you'd go out to a park, sit down, set up your antenna, make some contacts, and you get points for all the different contacts you can make. You could sit at home and activate people who were at parks and get points, I believe. And it was just kind of a fun way to get people out of the shack into the field and operating portable radio. And I think overall, that was pretty well received, realistically, because ARRL was trying to do that. I think it was the following year in 2017. It might have been a couple years later that they did the grid chase. So the point of that was, I think that would reset every month, but it lasted for a whole year, and you'd go out and try to work as many grid squares as you can, and then you turn in your logs for points, etc. there. So I think the whole annual thing from the ARRL was a really great idea, and I kind of wish they'd do it again. But regardless, Parks on the Air started post-2016, after the National Parks on the Air ended, and it was developed by a group of guys that said, hey, we should make this a regular thing. So they set up the website, parksontheair.com, and they started registering all these different parks and not national monuments, but like wildlife preserves and different areas like that. And they've added a bunch to it here lately. But basically, it is a complete list of state parks. Parks on the Air is a state parks, unlike the ARRL, which was national parks. Although a lot of the times, I think they might overlap. So a whole list of state parks where you go and set up your antenna. You take your radio out, you take your battery. You can even go, the cool thing about Parks on the Air is that it's so easy to do. But you can go out to a park, you can take your radio, battery, coax, and antenna, set it up, make 10 contacts, and you have activated the park. And then you take that log and you send it to your section manager on the Parks on the Air website, and he updates it, and then your call sign gets put on the website, and you get listed as an activator. And then the more parks you do, the more points you get. And it's all a big point system like everything else in amateur radio, but it's fun. What it does is it gets you out of the house and it gets you playing portable radio. And if you've never done portable radio before, if you've never done field day, winter field day, if you've never done some kind of MCOM or something, Parks on the Air helps to get you familiar with how to do that. So, not everyone may know how to go out to a park and set up an antenna and make sure that it's tuned and even resonant, or at least tuned if not resonant, and actually make contacts. I mean, if you've never done it before, then you probably don't know how to do it. You may understand the concept, but you're like, well, what if I forget this, or what if I don't have this? So it gets you out of the house. It's also great for people who are in HOAs, Because if you live in an apartment or a condo or an HOA and you just simply cannot have an antenna at home, but you want to operate HF, guess what? What's your option? Well, you can put a mobile radio in the car. You can go drive around all the time and just operate HF from the mobile radio, and you should do that. That's a great idea. I'm working on my new mobile install right now. But if you want to do something a little bit more challenging and more rewarding, and something for a point system, because in amateur radio we like to give points for everything, then you can go set up at a park. Set up at a park, and the cool thing about Parks in the Air is there's basically no rules to it. You have to be in the park. That's it. So if you've got a really great mobile station and you just want to drive up to the park and sit in your car and operate your mobile station, mobile antenna, mobile radio, everything that's the same exact setup that you have if you're driving down the highway. You can, as long as you're parked inside of the park, as long as your QTH, your current QTH is that park, you can operate or activate the park. You make 10 contacts and move on. Doesn't matter what band, you can use multi-modes, you can use single sideband, CW, FT8, PSK. You can use FM simplex. You can use single sideband 2 meter. Use anything you want. You can use 12 and 17 and 30 meters. It's not a contest. So you can use the work bands. It's just a point system. So, and it's getting people on the air, and it's 24/7, 365. So you don't have to worry about bands. You just have to find a clear frequency, get on the air, and start calling CQ POTA, and give your call sign, of course. So what that does is it gets you out of the house. It gets you able to set up in the field. It gives you a real-world opportunity, and it gives you a pileup to work. If you've never been on DXpedition before, if you're just sitting there at home calling CQ, you probably get people come back to you every now and then. But most likely, if you're in the United States especially, the stations in the United States don't get piled upon, generally speaking. I'm talking about a home station, not a special event, not an extra special call sign or anything like that. But if you're just sitting at home with your normal everyday call sign and calling CQ, yeah, you're going to talk to some people, but you're not going to get a pileup. There's not a lot of people that want to work a station in Texas. Maybe if you're in Delaware or Alaska, that might not apply to you. But in Texas, there's a lot of stations in Texas. So having Texas in your log is no great accomplishment. But if you go out to a park and you spot yourself, you can spot yourself, you can ask someone else to spot you. Self-spotting in Parks on the Air is completely acceptable. Spot yourself, say, I'm at this park on this frequency, I'm going to call CQ. Call CQ. I worked a pileup yesterday at this park. Now, I've been at this park for 2 days, so it's easier. I didn't have any time constraints here. But I worked a pileup for about an hour and a half. I made about 140 contacts. And it was fun working the pileup. And that is something that you don't usually get to experience in HF in the United States. And again, unless you're doing a special event station, or maybe a really loud contest station for something. But for Parks on the Air, you can work pileup. So it's almost like being on DXpedition in another country or another island somewhere. And you don't have to go that far because there's a lot of parks. Go to parksontheair.com, choose the United States, choose your state, drill down, open up the map, and actually open up the map first, then choose the United States, then choose your state, drill down, and find all the parks near you, and you can see which ones are available on the list of parks to activate on the website. So Parks on the Air is a great way to get people on the air in a portable setup, possibly, portable or mobile setup. QRZ from Kilo Charlie 5, Hotel Whiskey Bravo, Parks on the Air.
Kilo Echo 4, Zulu Uniform November.
Kilo Echo 4 Zulu Uniform November, 5-9 into Texas.
5-5 North Carolina, thank you.
QSL, copy the 5-5 North Carolina, 73, thanks for the contact. QRZ from Kilo Charlie 5, Hotel Whiskey Bravo, Parks on the Air, QRP. You can test out your station equipment, you can test out your skills about calling CQ, you can test out your skills about working a pileup, and you can get point system and put it on the website and keep going and get awards and do all kinds of good stuff that we like to do in many different things in amateur radio. So if you have not tried Parks on the Air, I would highly recommend it. I started with it only about 6 months ago, probably. I've been a hammer operator for a long time, and I've been a general class for a long time. So I've done field day for several years now. I've been on DXpedition to Costa Rica 3 times. I've done special event stations a couple times here and there. But Parks on the Air is basically a taste of all of that with easier access, because you can go there any day, find a park near you, drive there any day, any night, activate it, operate it, try different antennas, try QRP, try different radios, try multi-bands, try to do one in FM simplex, get up high somewhere and try to do one in FM simplex. But you can drive to it. You don't have to hike to it like you do on some summits on the air. Some of them you got to hike all the way to. Some of them you have to hike a certain distance from your car. But Parks on the Air, you can even be sitting in your car and operating Parks on the Air. So it's a really fun time. It's a great addition to amateur radio, and I'm really thankful to the guys at parksontheair.com for administering and supporting the hobby and the event as they do. So if you're on Facebook, go check out the Facebook group called Parks on the Air. And there's a second one called Parks on the Air Digital Experiment, where they talk about how to use FT8, PSK, and different digital modes on HF while operating from a park. So lots of great people in both of those groups that are helpful and willing to answer questions for any that you might have. And you can spot yourself in those groups too. So when I got here at Lake Texoma State Park 2 days ago, I posted in the group and said, okay, I'm going to try some 17 meters. I made one contact. I did some 40 meters. I did some 20 meters. I tried some 6 meters. Couldn't really reach anybody on that. But then I started working FT8, and I've worked at a bunch of FT8 this morning as well, which is actually, this is the first park I've ever done FT8 from. I do FT8 from home all the time, but I've never done it from a park before. So I was able to sit down and work some different modes, work some different bands, and do some extra stuff that I usually don't get to do because I drive into a park, I activate it, and I leave. So we've had plenty of time here to do that this week. 73 guys, thanks for listening. Put your comments below. Let me know if you do Parks on the Air, if you've never heard of it before, if you have any questions, post them below, and hope to hear you on the air.